Today we'll not be going into so much the readings, but there are really a lot of our thoughts and prayers are going in this Advent season to always discover the will of God in our own lives, to discover that power of Jesus and how he leads us forth. Today I was invited to do a little reflection on Lady of Guadalupe. And even though we celebrated her last Friday, many times as a community we can't always gather on those feast days. So we move them over so that we can celebrate together. There's a small song that animates us, many who celebrate the Guadalupe in the morning. It's in Spanish. I'm not going to force you to sing in Spanish this morning. But I do want to make it in English at least, because it's so beautiful, just the beginning of it. It says, in Spanish it goes, Desde el cielo una hermosa mañana, la guadalupana vino al Tepeyac. In English it would be, from heaven on a glorious morning, Guadalupe came to Tepeyac. Mary came down to the hilltop of Tepeyac and spoke to Juan Diego. This happened in 1531. As you know, it was not too long before the discovery of America. There was a lot of things going on, like many things are going on in our own country and in this world. A lot of people being oppressed, a lot of people being marginalized by the new culture, and at the same time trying to find a place with each other. But there was a great appreciation for the church, a great appreciation for God's mercy and compassion, and for Mary amongst them. And here is Juan Diego walking on his way, and he hears from the hilltop someone saying, Juan, little John, little Juan, Juanito, come up here. And he goes without hesitance. Doesn't know who's calling. But he goes up the mountain and he meets Mary there. And she tells him, I am the Divine Mother, and I have a mission for you. I want to build a church, a temple on this hilltop where all can come and pray and receive my son. I want you to tell this to the bishop. Bring this message to the bishop. Go, Juanito, go and take this message. So he goes. Without hesitance, he goes to the bishop to speak to him. So imagine a poor little Indian man going before the bishop. If you would come here to the States, you would have to make an hour, call up a few days ahead just in case the bishop wasn't there. And being kind of from the remote areas, who knows if the bishop would see you. But the bishop did see him. He did receive him. He heard his story, but he actually believed him. He told him, come back tomorrow, thinking that Juanito will just leave it, let it go. But Juanito had a mission, and he came back the next day. Again, he told them, okay, can you go back to the lady and tell the lady to send me a sign? Tell me a sign that she really wants this done. Juanito goes home, and while he's going home, he discovers that his uncle's very ill, so he can't meet up with the lady when he was supposed to. So he tries the next day when he's trying to go back on his way. He decides not to meet up with her because he failed that mission of going back to her. He couldn't meet her because of his uncle's illness. But she meets up with him and tells him, where were you? Where are you going? And he tells him, I can't tell you, I'll come back for you to do what you want me to, but my uncle's very ill, and I have to get a priest for him. I want him to receive the last rites, just like we heard in the petition this morning, right? Giving thanks for everything. He had this for his uncle, taking care of others. And Mary says, don't I know you? Aren't you my son? I know your needs. Place him in your hearts. Place him in my prayers. Your uncle is fine. Your uncle is well now. Go now. Go up to the mountain and take the flowers from there and cut them, bring them to me. Juanito, again, did not hesitate, even though he knew that in December, flowers would not be growing. Maybe fake flowers like we have now for Christmas outside, right? But he went up there, not hesitant, and he was surprised. The roses were there. The roses were grown. He cut them and brought down to Mary. And Mary told him, go take him to the bishop. This will be a sign from me, enough for him to build this church. So he takes him in his shawl and takes him to the bishop. He gets to the bishop receives him, and he says, I have this sign from Mary, from thy mother. And he unclothes and lets the flowers fall. And as the flowers fall, not only he's surprised because the flowers in this time coming from the mountain in December, but also on that shawl is the image imprinted of the Lady of Guadalupe, just like Juan Diego saw him. All of Mary's manifestations always were very impressive for all of us as Catholics. How Mary sees and calls those that are supposedly insignificant before the world. She calls them forth and she gives them a mission. This Our Lady of Guadalupe, this invocation, this apparition, went out all over the world. If you go to Mexico, every day is completely full. Her shrine, especially in Guadalupe. People from all over the world, thousands and thousands of people go pray to Mary, have their intercessions met, and meet with her son Jesus. Pius XII was the one to declare her the patroness of the Americas in 1945. And here, every year, we celebrate her even in the United States. It's a beautiful tradition they started a few years back. They start towards October, and they run all the way from Tepeyac. They bring a torch that is lit, and they bring it all through Mexico, through the United States, and it gets even to New York City for the Feast of Guadalupe, sharing that spirit in Mary, that she is watching over us and seeing us wherever we may be. For us, her message continues to resonate for all of us because we hear our own stories also reflected there. First of all, just that she knew Juanito's name. She called him by his name. And many times for us, for someone to call us by name, especially in the world today, when many people go unnoticed, when someone calls our names, it catches us by surprise. I'm walking in the streets sometimes in New York City with thousands of people there, and I hear, Father Astor. And usually I'm not in my neighborhood, so if it was my neighborhood, I wouldn't understand that. But when it says Father Astor, I turn around and I says, who is it? Someone's calling you by recognizing you, acknowledging you. That's a beautiful gesture, especially for someone who cares for us. And that's why really, when we talk about divine, that God calls us by our name. And Mary follows also, calling him by name and calling us also to live in her presence, calling us by our name. She knows of our devotion. She knows us just like that we have that trust and confidence, and we have no fear when we know that she's calling us. And she calls John with the smallest of her children. She goes, you, the smallest of my children, I have a mission for you. And I thought about that because many times also in this world, many of us feel very small. I'm not talking about size, right? Imagine me small, right? I'm talking more about anything else, how sometimes we go unnoticed. Sometimes, with everything that's going on, we're not the biggest people in the world. We're not politicians. We're not probably in the main post, but we're recognized. Here Mary says, the smallest of my children, I watch over you. Many times in this world, especially now we hear so many things, people are marginalized, things happen to them, people feel neglected, people feel oppressed. The small ones. As we know with St. Vincent, and we know with Catherine Labouré and the Miraculous Medal, and here again with Guadalupe, the small ones are not forgotten. They are all her children. We are all our children. And no matter what we may go through, our hardships, our solitude, our illnesses, whatever we may be going through, we're not forgotten, because no one is forgotten for the Lord, and neither for his Mary. Mary, who caught the eye of God because of her lowliness, her simpleness, her faithfulness, her devotion, remembers us all her children, especially the smallest amongst others. And she entrusts John with a mission, a temple to be constructed where all could come and pray, and receive her son. Today in this Advent season, I think that she sends us also on that mission to go out and go again and once again, and if we're not heard, to go again. Because we've experienced something beautiful in our lives. We experience always the love and the mercy of our Father. We experience the closeness of our mother who watches over us, and this is a treasure which we cannot keep quiet about. How many times in the Gospels do we hear that Jesus realizes the miracle in somebody's life and he tells them, do not tell anyone. And you hear right after in the Gospel, they went out and told everyone. If something good has happened to us, if something great has been happening to us all our lives, if we receive many miracles, why do we keep quiet? Why don't we go out and share with others the blessings we have received, the constancy of God's immense love in our lives, how he forgives us once and over again because of his love for us? Why do we keep quiet? So she calls us also in this season to go forth in that mission and tell all to come. Tell all to come experience that presence, that constant love, that mercy, that compassion that she has for all. And she tells us about the temple. But many times we can't all go to the temple. We can't all go to Tepeyac. We can't all come to the shrine on Mondays, right? Because it's difficult sometimes to get here. But what greater temple to let God abide in us? How do we prepare this temple in this season? How do I let God be a part of my life? How do I clean out those parts of me that need to be cleaned? How do I make a place for God to be the center of my life as he was a part of Mary's life? This is my prayer today, that as we continue to go forth in this Advent season and having Mary be a part of us, leading us away, that we continue to look to share moments with her, share moments with each other, but most of all, let the Lord be there amongst us, in us, and guiding us forth. I'd like you to help me with a song, if you don't mind. I hear you're good singers. I'd like to finish with that. If you go open up to 395, and I think you know it well. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before, but I think we can handle it, right? And it's that song, Open My Eyes, open my heart, open my ears, that we may be open to discover Mary in our lives, that we may continue to hear God's call through her for us to be present in this church, present to each other, as we endure many things in this life, that we may feel the comfort and the strength that God gives us through her, and that we continue to be there for others in their struggles and their difficulties and their needs. Maybe we one with God as we continue in this journey. Well, let us start. Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see your face. Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see. Open my ears, Lord. Help me to hear your voice. Open my ears, Lord. Help me to hear. Open my heart, Lord. Help me to love like you. Open my heart, Lord. Help me to love. I live in you, deep in your heart.